They invited me to lunch at a fancy steakhouse, just to tell me I was being replaced. After 11 years building the entire IT backbone of the company, I was out. Not because I failed, but because the owner's nephew needed a title. They thought I'd quietly hand over everything. What they didn't know was, I'd seen this coming 6 months ago. And while they were planning my exit, I was preparing a quiet revolution. That lunch wasn't the end of my career. It was the start of my legacy. It was supposed to be a thank you lunch. White tablecloth, medium rare steak, smiles all around. Then Preston, the CEO, set down his fork and said, "We're going in a different direction." I didn't flinch. After 11 years, this was how they ended it. Not a memo, not a meeting, just lunch and a handshake. I sipped my water, nodded politely. He said they wanted new energy, someone with vision. Translation? They were handing my job to the owner's nephew, fresh out of grad school, no real-world experience, but a shiny degree and a familiar last name. I didn't argue. I didn't beg, because I'd already seen it coming. For months, my admin credentials had been quietly downgraded. My name vanished from the leadership thread, security audits I didn't authorize, meetings I wasn't invited to. And just last week, I found a new login profile, top-level access, with a name I didn't recognize at first. Nathan Blake. He wasn't just replacing me. He'd already started logging into my systems, reading my protocols, taking over bit by bit. So when Preston smiled and said, "You'll have 6 weeks to transition," I smiled back, because in my mind, the transition had already begun. That night, I didn't rage, I didn't pour a drink or punch a wall. I opened my laptop, not the company-issued one. The personal machine I'd kept offline for years. The one I used to track the heartbeat of Riverton's entire digital backbone. And sure enough, Nathan had already been inside. 3 weeks before that lunch, his credentials were created, full admin access. He'd read through all of my architecture files. Even the personal documentation I'd tucked into hidden directories. I checked the logs. He wasn't just reviewing, he was copying. I texted Luis, my longest-serving team lead. "Coffee at Joe's, 6:30 a.m. Don't ask, just show." He replied within a minute, "I'll be there." I didn't sleep. Instead, I paced the kitchen, thinking of every hour I'd poured into Riverton, every weekend missed, every crisis solved before it became public. I remembered when Preston once said, "We couldn't run a single shift without you." Now, I was a liability to be transitioned, but this time, I wouldn't go quietly. I had built something real, something they didn't understand. And I wasn't about to let a kid with a business card erase it all. Louis sat across from me the next morning, his brow furrowed. "They're not just replacing you, Robert, they're gutting everything." He pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. An email chain between Preston and a third-party vendor. Tech Core Industries. Subject line, "System Sync Valuation." My stomach tightened. System Sync wasn't just a monitoring tool. It was the custom software I'd spent 6 years perfecting, the invisible nervous system behind Riverton's production. And now, it was being listed as a proprietary asset in an upcoming acquisition deal. "They're selling the company," Luis whispered. "TechCore wants the infrastructure to be turnkey. That means replacing you, locking down your system and claiming it as theirs." I remembered the consultant from months ago, the one who asked strange questions about my architecture. I'd chalked it up to a compliance check. Turns out it was due diligence. Suddenly, everything made sense. The missing board minutes, the restricted server access, the secret planning meetings behind closed doors. They hadn't been preparing to move on without me. They'd been extracting everything I built to inflate their sale price, and right then, in that quiet booth off 3rd Street with a half-empty cup of coffee between us, I knew what I had to do. I didn't scream. I didn't storm into Preston's office demanding recognition. I did something much more dangerous. I activated Plan Echo, a contingency system Luis and I designed 3 years ago. At the time, we called it a just-in-case project. Turns out, this was the case. Using a secure off-site server, I uploaded the original system sync code, the one I developed months before joining Riverton, with timestamps and legal documentation to prove it. I also filed provisional patents for key components that made the platform function on manufacturing systems. Not everything, just the critical gears. Then I implemented one final update, a license check protocol, completely legal, fully documented, that would allow the system to continue running, unless tampered with or copied without consent. 8 days. That's how long they had before it expired, and I made sure the clock started ticking the moment I handed in my badge. I didn't tell anyone, not even Vanessa, because this wasn't about sabotage. This was about control. You see, when they took me out of the picture, they thought they were taking the code too, but they forgot one thing. I am the code. Next time you feel erased, just remember, your value doesn't disappear just because someone stops saying your name. 8 days later, at exactly 9:17 a.m., Riverton's production line ground to a halt. All 3 facilities displayed the same message. License expired. Please contact the developer. By 10:30 a.m., my phone rang. "Graham, what the hell did you do?" Preston sounded frantic. I replied calmly, "Nothing malicious, just protecting what's mine." Then I emailed a formal license agreement, complete with fair compensation and a clause requiring Riverton to acknowledge me as the original developer. They signed it within 6 hours. 2 weeks later, I met with TechCore's vice president in a glass office overlooking the Boston skyline. They wanted me, not as an employee, but as a consulting partner to lead Riverton's integration. The salary? Double. The freedom? Total. And Nathan? He was quietly dismissed. Turns out, when you try to lead with stolen tools, the system breaks faster than expected. I didn't gloat. Instead, I moved into a quiet lakeside cabin I'd been eyeing for years. Vanessa joined my new team a month later. Luis came soon after. One by one, we rebuilt on our own terms. Sometimes victory doesn't come with applause. Sometimes it looks like morning coffee on your own porch and a team that chose to follow you, not the title on your old badge. I didn't burn bridges, I just packed my integrity and walked across one. That's the thing about quiet exits. They speak the loudest. While Preston chased executive titles and Nathan posed in glass offices, I rebuilt my value on my own terms. My porch by the lake? It's not just peaceful, it's earned. Vanessa now leads training sessions. Luis codes with the freedom he deserves. We don't report to anyone. We build for those who respect the work. Sometimes the best revenge is no revenge at all. It's waking up with peace, knowing you didn't lose, you refused to be erased. And if you've ever felt that quiet injustice, leave a comment below. You're not alone. Your worth doesn't expire just because someone else failed to see it. Because when they took everything, they forgot one thing. You were the system.